we really need to talk about something that's happening right now in Peterborough. It's a genuine animal welfare crisis, and with the holidays just around the corner, it's a story that's playing out across the entire country. The charities on the front lines are sounding the alarm, and it's time we all started listening. This quote from Daphne Wilson, she's the chairwoman of Peterborough Cat Rescue, it just cuts right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? When someone who has been doing this work for 40 years uses the word epidemic, you know the situation is absolutely dire. So, okay, just how big is this problem really? Well, to get our heads around the sheer scale of it, we have to look at the numbers. The RSPCA has been tracking the situation across Cambridgeshire, and honestly, the data they've collected is pretty shocking. Let's start with just straight-up abandonment. By the end of October this year, there were 264 official cases of animals being dumped in Cambridgeshire. And just think about that. Every single one of those numbers represents a scared animal left behind. But that's not the whole story, not by a long shot. Beyond abandonment, the RSPCA got 927 reports of animal neglect in that same 10-month window. So this suggests a much, much bigger problem bubbling under the surface.
Now, here's where it gets really concerning. We're not just looking at a static high number. This problem is growing, and it's growing fast. Those 927 neglect reports, that's a 21% jump from the same time last year. This crisis is accelerating. It's so easy to get lost in these statistics, but we have to remember that behind every single one is an animal with a story.
Seeing these numbers, you just have to ask the question, why is this happening? Numbers like this don't just come out of nowhere. So what's really going on here? Let's really try to unpack the root causes. So here's the thing. It's not just one single issue. What the experts are describing is basically a perfect storm. It's fueled by a massive failure to neuter pets, which leads to unwanted litters. Then you've got people buying animals impulsively online, completely underestimating how much they cost. And, sadly, you have this trend of treating pets, especially dogs, like they're disposable fashion accessories.
And that first point about neutering, just listen to this again. When someone like Daphne Wilson with 4 decades of experience says this is the worst year she has ever seen for cats being born, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. It's an out-of-control population boom that the shelters just can't cope with.
And the financial fallout from all this, it is absolutely immense. All of that neglect means huge costs for the charities trying to clean up the mess. Peterborough Cat Rescue, which is a small charity, mind you, is facing vet bills of £16,000 every single week. I mean, how is that sustainable?
We'll get back to the solutions in just a moment. But first, let's address that sustainable question. You just heard that financial pressure is the #1 reason pets are being surrendered. Most owners don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. That is where PupPop comes in. We are the only app that calculates the real monthly cost of your dream dog. Monthly expenses, one-time expenses, and vet bills. Don't become a statistic. Know your numbers before you fall in love. Click the link in the description to run your free financial readiness check today on PupPop. Now, back to the episode.
Okay, so it's easy to feel a little bit overwhelmed hearing all that, right? But the conversation can't just end with the problem. We have to shift now towards the solution. It's about prevention, it's about responsibility. What can we actually do to turn this tide?
So what can we do? The advice from the experts is actually really direct and actionable. First, and this is the big one, neuter your pet. It is the single most important thing. Second, be brutally honest about the cost. As Daphne says, you need to be ready for those vet bills. And third, if you're truly ready for a pet, please adopt from a rescue.
And that adopt, don't shop message is just so important. When you adopt, you're not just giving an animal like Eddie a second chance at a happy life. You're also refusing to support the whole cycle of unethical breeding that often puts looks ahead of health. The RSPCA warns that shopping for pets, especially when they're treated like accessories, often means you're bringing home a sick animal and feeding into this idea that they're disposable. So in the end, this whole crisis, all these numbers and stories, it all boils down to one simple but really profound question. A pet isn't a gift. It's not a temporary accessory. It's a living, breathing being that will depend on you for its entire life. It's a promise. The question this crisis forces us all to ask ourselves is, are we truly prepared to make that promise?